Over 1 million downloads per month and the largest podcast in the fitness space. The Mind Pump team have a very unique perspective on the fitness industry, regularly challenging popular views, fads and trends in the health, fitness and nutrition space with a goal of searching for a truth to improve the lives of their community. They certainly challenged a few of my beliefs and helped me look at the fitness industry from a very different angle. Please join me in welcoming Sal Stefano, Adam Schafer and Justin Andrews to the Escape Your Limits podcast.
Okay, well, thank you so much, guys, for inviting me to San Jose. I've never been to San Jose, and I must admit, I've come into this place and I've got real sort of podcaster envy. You know, I'm looking around, and I thought we were quite sophisticated, and you know, you guys are on a different level. So,
no, we appreciate it. When we first started the show, we wanted to. We were talking off air, podcasting 4 years ago when we started. It's funny, we would go up to people and they would ask us what we did, and we'd say, oh, we have a podcast. And be like, what's a podcast? Yeah. Today, it's grown so much more, and what we did early on is we wanted to separate ourselves from everybody else in this new space, and it's become much more competitive. And I think in the next 4 or 5 years, it's going to become, you know, it's going to compound. And so trying to separate ourselves with sound and all that, plus it looks cool.
Yeah.
Impresses the girls.
Oh, it's more about how it sounds.
That's really what it's
right?
about.
I mean, we're moving into a time where it'll be, I think, mandatory. It's just like if you were to go try and watch a TV show on the old, like, you know, antenna, you know, versus high def 1080p type of deal, right? Like if you're trying to put a channel out now and you had fuzzy TV, you probably would lose half of, no matter how good your content is, you'd probably lose half your audience just because of the quality of the picture. I think the same thing we're going to see here with podcasting really soon here is, which we've already seen that transition. We've had people tell us like, man, you guys have just ruined it for us now because if I listen to another podcast and it sounds like they're in a bathroom or it's echoey or whatever, they're just like, I can't listen to it no matter how good it is. So I think we're in the middle of that. Thank God for Doug. I mean, Doug was the one with the foresight on all that. He is the big tech guy over there, making sure that our electricity is clean, right?
Right.
Yeah.
All my popping noises aren't too loud.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've heard the story about the dirty electric, and maybe we'll go into that a bit later.
Yeah, we have no idea what it means. Yeah. All we know is this morning he told us, he goes, hey guys, there was an issue, but I figured it out, don't worry. And we're like, what was the issue? And he goes, we had dirty power.
Dirty power, right.
Yeah, you might as well be speaking Chinese.
I mean, it sounds really sexy.
It does, yeah.
It doesn't sound like a bad thing, but whatever.
Hey.
Maybe it's a name for a new boutique studio gym or something.
I like that.
So you guys have been doing this for a while, and from what I've seen, you're probably one of the biggest in this, you know, in the fitness space in terms of podcasts. Is that right?
Yeah, wow. I think we've kind of hit the pinnacle of the fitness space. But if you look at podcasting, boy, there's other spaces that are
it's a massive ocean.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a show like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's podcast gets more downloads per episode than I believe the top 2 or 3 news networks of America combined. Just to show you the kind of reach that he has. He's like the new Oprah. And then he's a podcast. We're nowhere near that size, but the fitness space is relatively small in podcasting, and we're
a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah, we're a big fish in a small pond right now.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, if you look on iTunes, there's a ton of people setting up a podcast. You know, how do you sort of separate yourselves from everybody else? Because it seems, from my perspective, that there's just a new one popping up every day. You know, how do you separate yourself, and do you see a lot of these people that are coming in? There's enough listeners for it all to work. You know, what's your view on what's happening at the moment?
I think one of the things that made us really successful was the education with entertainment. I think that most people that listen to podcasts, they tend to be intelligent readers, growth-minded. You kind of attract that type of person to a space. So I think adding value to your podcast to where you're getting something from it. So the educational piece, I think, is really important. But then also doing it in an entertaining factor that keeps people coming back. And I think we tapped into that early on, and during this last four plus years now, it's been kind of refining that, you know, and unpacking what are the things that people really enjoy about the show, and can we implement that, and can we get more of that, and then also constantly providing value. I mean, I think at the end of the day, none of us are professional entertainers. We've never been in radio. We've never been in TV. None of us are comedians. So we're not talented when it comes to that, but we're very real. We're very authentic. We have fun doing what we do. And because we provide so much value, I think that's the real secret sauce. So we've got, you can't walk away from a show and not feel like you either learned something or you got new information or you got something to debate about with your partner later on over dinner. Like, I think we provide that in every single episode, and we try and deliver it in a way that's digestible for the average consumer.
Yeah, I think too, I mean, one of the main things that we had a very definitive why going into it. I think that a lot of podcasts that are kind of emerging right now are just trying to see what's out there and kind of replicate what they've heard before. Whereas, I mean, yes, we didn't know what we were doing. None of us have any experience in entertainment or, in this sort of a space at all. But we all did have like very unique perspectives in terms of the fitness industry, health in general, what the deficiencies that were out there that we saw. And we wanted to talk about it. We wanted to expose a lot of myths. We wanted to, steer people in a healthier path. And that was like really like a strong drive for us, like starting out. So it turned into a little bit of us calling people out. We were a little bit more abrasive in the beginning. And then, we had to kind of come up with our own answers to kind of steer people in a better direction. But yeah, it's just been an evolution since the beginning of how can we promote better information? How can we provide more value to people, who are trying to better themselves and get more fit?
Yeah, well, I think aside from the obvious things like have a good show, have good sound, be consistent when you release an episode, there are some mistakes that people make that people don't realize are big mistakes. I think the first one is they are not authentic. Now, why is that a mistake? Well, you can fake something for so long, but you can't fake something forever. And in a space like podcasting, it's very hard to be fake for an hour or 2 hour episodes, week in and week out, year in and year out. At some point, you're not providing much value because you're being fake. You have to constantly be someone that you're not. The second thing that I think helped us quite a bit was we didn't ask for a single dollar from anybody, any of our fans, for a full year. We came out and our goal was to provide as much value as possible. And when our fans, we knew we would sell things when our fans told us it was time. And that's exactly what happened. About a year into doing what we did, we had built an audience, we had gotten some traction, and we got messages from fans and they were saying things like, where can I donate money to your show? Or can you please make something that I can buy? I want to support you guys. Once we had enough of those messages, we said, okay, I think the time is right now to turn this into a business. A lot of people do the opposite. They start out with the idea that they're going to have a business. They put out episodes, immediately ask for money, immediately want something in return for whatever they're providing. And it's a losing strategy in the new media world, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or podcasting. Wait. Provide the value, build your audience. If you can build an audience, if you do build an audience, the business will present itself. But if you start out by trying to sell something right out the gates, especially in this new space, you're not going to gain much traction. It'll be very difficult.
Yeah. And to give people some context, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you guys started out as personal trainers working for Mark Mastrov's company many years ago. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. We all. I've been in fitness now professionally for 22 or 23 years. Adam and Justin almost as long, and we all started our careers at 24 Hour Fitness, which was the health club chain that Mark Mastrov actually founded. He's actually I would consider him one of our ultimate mentors. We learned quite a bit working there. And we were all quite successful working for that company. We're all upper management, ran successful teams, grand open gyms. But then we all left and did our own things. But we've been in fitness for a very, very long time. So what you hear on the show is that experience coming out. So when we talk about things like fat loss, muscle building, how to eat properly, it comes through the filter of I've worked with hundreds of people, thousands if you consider the proxy clients that I've worked with through other trainers. and we've learned how to communicate things in ways that are effective. So you may learn a few things that you've never heard before, but one thing's for sure, you'll learn things that you've heard before in ways that will impact you like they've never impacted you before. And again, this is all just trial and error. When you train clients for decades, you learn what works. Like I've been telling people to eat less forever, but eventually I learned how to communicate that because I saw what worked and what didn't work. I've been telling people to work out forever, but eventually I learned there's ways to say it and ways to apply it that are effective long term, and there are ways to say it and apply it that are not effective long term. And so this is what we bring to the show: is how is our ability to communicate these things effectively through the filter of training, trial and error. I mean, we made a lot of mistakes early on as trainers. We talk about that quite a bit as well.
There's a lot of those little nuances that we bring to the show that we've found training people, even if it's just a specific exercise, that we all have had an experience training somebody who, had difficulties with it. And how do we communicate, a better process to that and better cues that are more simplified, and we're not like talking over people's heads. And I think that, even with podcasting or if you're getting, educated in school, a lot of times people out there are trying to communicate in a way where they sound very intelligent. They sound very smart. They're using a lot of anatomical terms, and they're just not relating to those people. And, as personal trainers, this is a unique perspective because we're talking to your everyday average person like constantly. And if you're not able to relate to them, it's not going to stick. Yeah. And so what's the point? And so like a lot of podcasts out there's brilliant people out there providing amazing information and nobody's listening. And it's one of those things we recognize that there's a need for people out there to be able to communicate and come down to the level that's, we're going to meet right there in the middle. And what can I provide good information to them, but have them really understand it, not just shake their head, yes, like I get it, but they don't really get it. So that was one of those things that we're like, okay, how can we better do this, and also bring people on the show that are out there that aren't getting the ears that they should be getting, maybe because they're not quite as entertaining, or they're just not able to present that information in a way that's more digestible.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point because certainly a lot of people, we've interviewed a lot of guests on the podcast, and you've got two extremes. You've got some people that are using language which sounds, really clever and sophisticated, but I don't have a clue what it's about, and they kind of, a lot of cases stay in their own bubble, and then you've got the people that seem to be very effective that get that, they understand that, they come from that background, but they're able to talk about it in a stupidly simple level, and they seem to relate to people and get the results. I just wondered, you obviously met a ton of people through the podcast. Do you see something similar happening? And do you is your advice to, I guess, young trainers coming in that, you need to know the knowledge, but you don't need to use crazy words or explanations. You just need to kind of be able to break it down and be effective.
Oh, all the time. We see people like the smartest people are the ones that are communicating ineffectively, and the people who are communicating effectively have terrible information. That's what we end up finding in the fitness space. So, you have the people with all the followers who look cool, entertaining, and they'll say something, they'll have a good way of communicating a buzz term or whatever, and it just goes viral, but it's terrible information. It's horrible information. Then you've got the really smart people who just can't connect with most people, don't have a great way of communicating things, but they've got really, really good information. Look, if you can't communicate something effectively, then it's almost a waste to try to communicate that information. If people aren't getting it, then what's the use? I'll give you a couple examples. Carl Sagan, the great astrophysicist who a lot of us are familiar with, he did that pale blue dot speech, decades ago. He created a generation of children who were interested in astrophysics. Now, there's a lot of brilliant physicists out there, but what Carl Sagan did very, very well was he brought it to everybody, and people got it, and they got excited about it. Milton Friedman, the great economist, one of my favorite economists of all time, not quite as well known, but also somebody who took something as boring as economics and actually made an impact because he was able to communicate it to quite a bit of people. And so if our goal, which is our goal is to impact people in fundamental ways and to take the fitness industry and shift it in a direction to make it the answer to the obesity and health epidemic. If that's our goal, then the way to do that is to take what we know, which is knowledge that a lot of good fitness people know, but take it and communicate it in a way that actually reaches people, because otherwise we're in an echo chamber. And I could definitely sit in a room and talk with other trainers and fitness enthusiasts. I could talk to you about fitness and nutrition, and we would go and shake our heads and have a great conversation, but you're not really my audience. You're not the person I'm trying to reach. You've already been reached. You already made a lifestyle out of fitness. You already eat properly, probably already have a good relationship to food. I'm trying to reach Mrs. Johnson, who has, gone up and down with their body weight, who's got poor health, who's raising kids, who doesn't know how to get their kids to eat properly. I'm trying to reach that person and make an impact. And so far, nobody's done it really, really effectively and with integrity. And that's what we're trying to do. It's a huge, huge goal. But we think we may have stumbled upon the formula that works, and we're using the medium of podcasting to do it.
Yeah. Do you think that, so if you take that concept from trainer to, fitness club, you guys started out in 24-hour fitness, that business has changed a lot over the years, but do you think that, now there's still only about 20% of people that are probably working out, and there's a lot more people that need to. Do you think that let's talk about the sort of fitness industry, do you think that they're also trying to sort of, put together a message that's not necessarily connecting with the audience? And if you take your example about the astrophysicist, what he's done, he's made astrophysics fun and entertaining, so more people are getting involved in it. Do you think that's probably how, where the sort of traditional fitness clubs need to move to?
I think that's where they've gone wrong. I think that's what they've tried to do. They've tried to make it fun and exciting, and rely on things like motivation to get people to work out. Now, here's the deal. Motivation and fun, great way to get people started. Terrible way to keep people consistent. If you've been working out for any length of period of time, you know that you just get up and do it more often than you get up and motivated and pumped to do it. So people need to learn how to make fitness a part of their life. This means that they have to change behaviors. This means that it has to literally become a part of something they do, like brushing their teeth or making their bed in the morning or whatever. So it needs to be communicated a little bit differently. Look how terribly the industry has cheapened fitness. Okay, if I could sell Apple comes out with a new iPhone for $1,000. People line up around the block. Oh my God, great value, $1,000 for a phone. A gym opens its doors, amazing equipment, open 24 hours. Everything you need to get fit. $35 a month. That's too expensive. I'm not going to spend that much money on a stupid gym. They'll go spend $8 on a fancy coffee, but they won't spend nearly as much on a food that's healthy for them. For example, they'd rather go with the cheaper route. So what we've done is we've completely cheapened it, and it's lost a lot of its value. CrossFit actually proved that people will pay a lot more money for something that they get more value. The reason why people don't pay a lot of money for a gym is they don't show up. If you look at, I guarantee if we took most big box gyms and we took all the members that actually pay monthly dues and then figured out how many of them use the gym once a week consistently, I bet we'd see a small percentage of people use the gym consistently. A large percentage just pay their monthly dues. They call it donating to their local gym. So I think we've gone wrong there. We just haven't been able to really make fitness valuable to people and communicate it in a way where people understand that this is something that becomes a part of their life, rather than I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to get in shape real fast. I don't look good. I hate myself, so I'm going to go beat myself up in the gym. Wrong message. We've been communicating the wrong way. I learned this as a personal trainer. When I first became a trainer, clients would come to me and my message was, hire me, I'll get you in shape real fast. Yeah, 15 pounds, no problem. Just do everything I tell you. And eventually I learned that was a failing strategy. Some people did what I said and they would lose 15 pounds, but very few people stuck around very long. Nobody did it forever. Later on, I learned people would come to me and say, I want to lose 15 pounds in 3 weeks. And I'd say, okay, actually, we're not going to do that. And here's why, because I'm going to do it the right way. And here's what it's really going to look like. And at first, I'm going to start off by trying to get you stronger. We want to focus on your movement patterns. I'm going to try and speed up your metabolism. I'm not going to take any food away at first. First, I'm going to add food. First, I want you to add vegetables to your diet. Don't change anything else. And we're going to take this slow. And then every time they come in, I'd point things out that are different than just the way their body looked. How did you sleep last night? Oh, I'm sleeping better. Awesome. How do you feel? I feel better. Look, you're stronger. You did one more rep than you did last week. That means you are fundamentally a different person physically than you were last week. And once I started to change how I train people and started to tell them, no, we're not going to lose 15 pounds right away, but we're going to take the process a little slower. We're going to do it the right way. Little by little, I started to get clients that became lifelong clients. People who still, 15 years later, I stay in contact with them, who had never worked out before meeting me, continue to exercise on a regular basis, even though I'm not training them, no one else is working with them, it's on their own. That is real success. And that's where I think the fitness industry needs to go, rather than capturing people real quick with the flash and the flash in the pan type of marketing. That's just not working. We're fighting for the same, 18% of America has got a gym membership. They're just trading members.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think then have you seen people that are doing that well, or do you just think that model now, it's been around for a while, it's got tapped into a certain amount of people, and it's just, there's a need for something different? Maybe people don't need to work out, to get their results. They don't need to go to a gym. They can do stuff at home. Where do you see things going based on what you've said? Because I hear this from a lot of people. It sounds as though, we're marketing in the wrong way. That everybody's kind of copying.
Are we though?
Everybody else.
Are we? Because it depends on what we're talking about. What we think is best for the consumer, or what we think is best for business.
Right.
Because from a business standpoint, the model's not failing. I mean, before you got in this room today, we were just talking on our Q&A, and I brought up Planet Fitness right now.
Yeah.
And Planet Fitness is growing 400% over the last 4 years. They've got 1,800 gyms worldwide. They're building another 225 this year.
They're the epitome of that model.
They are
$8, $10 a month.
Dominating the space and growing rapidly with no signs of slowing down. And what they've tapped into is, let's really trying to change lives. Let's forget about that. Let's go after the 80-something% that aren't even gym users, and how do we appeal to them just to get a monthly recurring fee? And they have found this strategy of, okay, if we do a low barrier to entry by a $10 monthly fee, and we give you pizza once a month for free, that pretty much justifies your $10 a month. And now I've got your membership. And so from a business standpoint, I would challenge that it's the wrong way to market, or it's not a good model, because business-wise, it's brilliant. And Planet Fitness is kicking everybody's ass right now. So now, but for the consumer and what's best for them, and that's where I think we come in. I think that we are a medium for those people. Is that, okay, you have your gym membership now, but how do you use it? And, how do you work on that relationship with food, like Sal was saying, and exercise? So I see a lot of value in what we're doing. I don't know if I necessarily agree from a business standpoint that these other strategies are wrong, because technically they're all still winning. So
we're trying to educate the consumer and not the producers here. They're going to, like any business in free market societies, the business is going to do what works for profits. There's nothing wrong with that. It just oftentimes reflects the consumer. And so Adam's 100% right. Their marketing is working. Now, on the flip side, here's what I think needs to happen for the fitness industry to really solve people's issues with health. I think we need to communicate what really is the most effective thing that I've ever seen in fitness long-term for people. And that is, unfortunately, also the most expensive thing: one-on-one personal training. I have yet to see anything in fitness, any gym, any class that comes close to a good personal trainer, not a bad one, but a good personal trainer who knows what they're doing. That's the best chance of success that you have for long-term fitness and health success. So as to the consumers, that's something that we constantly communicate. Like, take a small investment, invest in working with a trainer for a couple months, get a good trainer, that's going to give you a much better chance than doing it on your own, and trying to save money. And in reality, it becomes a waste. It becomes less of an investment and more of a waste of money.
So just coming back to your point then, and I think you make a very good point, and it's funny, I got a club industry email just a few days ago and read about the number of locations that they're opening, and it's incredible. I got straight onto the phone to one of my sales guys and said, take
Get our equipment in there. Let's go.
Yeah. So I think it's great. What do you think then that they've done well? And you talked about the 18%. Are they growing the 18%, or are we sort of just taking away from what's already there and saying, look, we can bring the price down? And then secondly, what do you think can be layered on top of that? Are we getting people off the couches that probably didn't go into a gym, and then kind of where what could be done better to find maybe a better model? Is it combining it with really good personal training because your cost to go into the club is lower? What are your thoughts on those sort of 2 points?
Well, the reality is this is secretly, and no, I don't think any big box gym owner would ever promote this or say this, but secretly they don't want you to show up. The gym would close down. If every member that is in a 24-hour fitness, a Lifetime, a Planet Fitness, a Golds, if every member that person that is in that gym showed up, the fire marshal would get called. The amount of members they have to the amount of members that actually show up on a daily basis doesn't compute. And so in reality, their ultimate to be a successful business is not for them to show up every single day. I mean, and so if their desired outcome was to get these people great results and get them motivated and keep them coming on a regular basis, their business would probably be failing because they would have to expand their size, and
they'd have to change the model.
Yeah, they would have to they would have to charge a much higher rate so that there was space for people in there. Because when you look at a model like Planet Fitness, that's $10 a month. I mean, geez, they can't survive just off of 200 members. 200 members doesn't keep that business operating, but yet. I would argue that there's probably only allowed 200 or 300 people are allowed in that gym at one time. So if, and then I'm sure they have well over 1,000 members plus to your average Planet Fitness. So if all 1,000 members showed up on the same day, they'd have to close doors. So, it's an interesting thing that we're in, right? With this model that the gyms are doing. And, I don't really rag on the gyms. I think it's the consumer's responsibility to educate themselves and learn. And I think we saw opportunity there to help them and to educate them and inform them on that this is the model that, no matter what they try and sell you and tell you, they're not really looking out for your best interest. They're looking out for the business being successful. And that's not, I don't think it's, devious or wrong. I mean, their job in business is to be successful, and they have found an incredible way to monetize off of the behaviors of all of us as humans. Now, what we have seen is that it's become so extreme that there's a huge opportunity for guys like us to come in and inform and educate and help out. And if we're doing our job really well, then gyms are going to have to learn a new model, right? If we do a better job at really helping people, really educating them, keeping them more consistent with working out and showing up to these gyms, then these gyms will have to figure out a new model to continue thriving. So until that day happens, we know that we still have a lot of room to grow in what we're doing.
I've actually had conversations with gym owners, and we've talked about this very topic. And most gym owners are genuinely into fitness, genuinely want people to get more fit. So I don't want to paint the picture that these are, evil people just trying to get your money and not have you show up. From a business model perspective, the way it's designed, that would be advantageous. But most of them really do want people to work out. But it's funny, I sat down and talked with a buddy of mine who owns several clubs, and he says, Sal, he goes, the gym member, because his average monthly due, I believe, was $22 a month, I think it was. He goes, the guys and girls that I have that come into the gym and work out 6 days a week cost me money. They're the ones that come, they pay me $22 a month like everybody else, but they, wear the equipment down, they use the toilet paper, they're actually costing me money. The people that I pure profit off of are my other members who pay me $22 a month and don't show up at all. And that's where you get that model. So when you go to a gym, where, for example, a CrossFit box, a successful CrossFit box, even though I don't agree with their workout programming or whatever, a successful CrossFit box will cost you per month $100 to $150 a month. A successful Planet Fitness will cost you about $10 a month. What that tells me automatically is a high percentage of the people who are members of the CrossFit use the gym. That's why the price is high. And a low percentage of the people who sign up at the Planet Fitness show up. That's why the price is so low. So that's an interesting thing. If you go to a gym and you look at the price of the gym, that's one thing that it'll tell you. Do a lot of the people use the gym, or do a little bit of the people use the gym, and how many members do they have?
And do you think is that a solid theory? I'm not sort of challenging, but it sounds quite logical. I never thought about it that way. But have you sort of gone deep into that?
There's more that goes into it, of course. Yeah. Sometimes the cost of the membership is another signal to the consumer that the gym is nicer, and we don't necessarily want a lot of people here or whatever. But no, absolutely. I mean, the facilities that have high usage have to charge more.
Right.
They have to. A CrossFit club with that's successful wouldn't be able to charge $10 a month because they wouldn't have enough space, and vice versa. So it's true. It does reflect it, and it is interesting, and it is part of that model.
Is it like the Soul? So if you look at something like a Soul Cycle or a Orange or whatever, would you say that's a similar thing where they're generally packed in a lot of cases?
Higher use, yeah. In small group class type facilities, the ones that are successful have a much higher success rate in terms of consistency. So the average Orange Theory member uses their gym more regularly than the average, 24-Hour Fitness, for example. And that's, there's a lot of reasons for that. I think the group class setting tends to motivate people more. You get more of that contact. When you go into a big box, you're on your own type of deal. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of other factors, I think, that go into that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what about then, let's talk about business, because although, however you look at it, without businesses making money, and even what you guys are doing, they're not going to be able to provide options for people. So I think it's really important that, from our perspective, that people are successful. What are the business opportunities for the 80% that, are not turned on by a low-cost club that need to work out? You guys sound as though you're going after those people. What do you think are some of the potential answers for those people? And I know not all of them are going to ever want to go in, no matter what the facility is. But there's probably a percentage in the middle, another 20% that
If we knew the answer to that, we would be billionaires,
wizards.
Yeah, that's the big question: is how do you get those people? There's been a few things that have happened as long as I've been in fitness that I've seen that has kind of been successful at getting the people off the couch, but they weren't successful at keeping them. I remember Curves. Do you remember Curves? The circuit training facility just for women, and they used the pneumatic equipment. It was a really inexpensive model. That was interesting. They blew up, and they of course they tanked afterwards because the workouts themselves weren't effective and they weren't able to keep people. But they were actually tapping into a portion of the market that wasn't even going into any gyms. It was self-conscious women, oftentimes women who were dealing with weight issues, who were too afraid to go into gyms. They did a pretty good job of getting them off the couch, but they didn't keep them. They didn't keep them there. But gosh, if I had the answer to that,
I think we have the answer. I think there's some stuff we can talk about. For example, I think that the bodybuilding motivation, kill it kind of message is not appealing to the 80%. But I would argue that 80% of the people that aren't working out, that aren't going to gyms on a regular basis, I would say a big percentage of those people, I think, would agree that they want to be healthy. Mm-hmm. So I think the message of health and balance and educating people on that, you don't need a gym. You don't necessarily have to go into a gym to be healthy and do exercise. Mm-hmm. There's ways to conform your lifestyle or your healthy fitness lifestyle around your current lifestyle. I think that that message is prevailing. I think that there's, maybe about 15, 20 years ago, we looked at the kind of like, yoga, organic eating, that was like hippie and woo-woo, where that message, I think, is becoming more popular and more mainstream. So I think speaking to the health and wellness message versus get to the gym and build muscle and burn fat. Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I mean, part of we didn't touch on this piece, but something that we all said off air before this podcast ever started at the beginning was that we saw a major divide in the community, in the fitness community. You had the bodybuilder, take whatever supplement, steroid, kill it, no days off group. And then you had the peace, love, yoga, stretch, and organic food only group. And they were polar opposites and spoke badly about each other, and there was a major division. I think that part of our message, we said that we wanted to merge those, that there was a lot to take from both groups. There was something to take from this group over here, and there was something to take from that group, and neither one of them is right or wrong. And there's things that I think that everybody can take from and learn from them. And so we've tried to blend that. And who better than to do it than a couple of 3 meat-headed looking bro guys that look like the bodybuilder, steroid, take whatever it takes guys, but then speak like some health, wellness, yoga hippies. And so I think that was part of our secret sauce is we saw a need in the market. We saw an opportunity to reach the majority, to other people that aren't really into hardcore working out, but that maybe don't totally identify with the namaste people. And I feel like that is the answer. I think the answer is I think that 80% may not identify hardcore with one of those.
It's more general health. And I think that this has been a learning process for us too, because it is like 80%, like, I mean, there's so many different types of like avatars within that 80% that need to be specifically addressed. Like you need to find a way to, for our podcast to make it into their lifestyle somehow. Like, how do we do that? We've addressed this as we've created programs. We're trying to kind of pinpoint a certain type of a listener, a certain type of person that will respond to, certain things. So, for instance, there's people that are really into high intensity, like circuit training. That's one demographic. There's people that, like Adam mentioned, are just into mobility, flexibility, yoga, and that's like a whole category on its own. There's people that just want to get strong. There's people that are just into powerlifting. But these are all like weekend warrior type people. Like they follow people on Instagram, they follow people on all the social medias to inspire them constantly, and they need this like constant motivation to get them up and doing things. And we're like, okay, if somebody had this idea, I want to start powerlifting because I see people doing this and it looks awesome, and if I have no idea where to start, well, we're actually trying to be sort of a bridge to a lot of these different pursuits. Like even like a new thing is OCR. So it's this obstacle course racing, and that kind of became a phenomenon. And how do we, find a way to present a solid training plan to even build them up so they can do that without injuring themselves or, go at it all willy-nilly, like have an actual plan. So I think that our example too with this has been like a Max Lugavere or somebody like Dr. Oz, where they're addressing like the majority of people and like trying to steer them into healthier decisions, but it's so simple. And that's frustrating for us because you have all this knowledge that you want to teach people and infuse, but you have to pull yourself back and really simplify it to be able to even have that conversation. So it's been a learning process.
Well, to your point, Justin, in the programs, I think that's something else that was really unique that we did was we saw that in fitness, there's all these camps. And to his point, the OCR, the strong, the mobility, and it's like you're hardcore and that's all you are. And you identify with that. And so the trainers and the professionals that are writing programs around that are speaking to just the hardcore person in that space. We don't have the best powerlift. If you are the cream of the crop powerlifting competitor or strongman competitor, we don't have the program for you. We have the program for the person who is interested in those things and is just a normal person, but is curious. Like if I were to train in a gym, how should I train to train like that? Although I don't think I'm going to go compete with the strongest men in the world or the strongest women in the world, but I am curious to how they train, how they exercise, and I would like to do that in the right way, in a safe way. So we saw that instead of us niching down, like I think a lot of people tend to say is important in business. So go find your niche, and we've been saying that in business for so long. And you've got these fitness professionals that are like, okay, I know my niche. I'm into kettlebells. So I'm going to do a kettlebell program. And it's just going to speak to the people that are like hardcore into kettlebell. They're going to read it and they're going to be like, holy shit, this is like the highest level kettlebell. And I'm going to share it amongst the 50 people that are hardcore like me. We're more like, listen, kettlebells are a cool tool. They've been around for a really long time. There's a lot of just average Jane and Joe people that see them are curious on what's the best way to use these tools. And we want to introduce that and make it very easy for them to enter into that. And we saw that opportunity. And then there's a major scarcity mindset in the fitness space of, we want to separate ourselves and our camp is better than your camp. And we're like, no, it's like, why can't that 80% of the average person come in and say, hey, you know what? I kind of want to train like this for a little bit and see if I like it, or let me try this program over here and see if I like it. And we've become a very reliable source for that. And what we do is we outsource that. We look for people that we know in the space that are really, really brilliant in that type of programming or really understand that space. We collaborate with them, and then we create something for the average consumer that's just interested in it. That's not trying to compete at the highest level in it, but that is interested in that type of training. And we introduce them that, and we make it very easy for them. There was a lot of opportunity. There still is a lot of opportunity for the people that are listening right now for that. Don't get yourself caught in a camp and my way is better than your way. Like, there's an opportunity for you to, introduce that 80% to a lot of different things.
Yeah. And I think that point is quite interesting to stay on for a moment, because I think if you look at what we spoke about earlier in terms of communication is really important to get your message through to the audience. My view about podcasting and social media is that you're now able to really target, and I guess use the word niche down, but communicate to people that are similar to you with similar messages. I very much see that, from my perspective, the fitness industry, it's been kind of very mass marketing, one size fits all, and I suppose seeing some of these Instagram people that you're referring to, although they may not necessarily all have the credibility, what they seem to do is to be able to relate to a certain demographic. Maybe I'm I'm kind of an overweight man or woman, and they seem like someone I can listen to, and they suddenly are able to communicate and penetrate through the noise and get through to them. And I suppose the question is it really about how to kind of get the message to the right people? Because what I mentioned earlier, it's very much about lose weight, get a six pack. And I was listening to one of your recent podcasts where you talk about, I think it was variety or getting people to continue to work out. And I can't remember which one of you said it, but it was very much, someone said that you weren't super interested in fitness. Sport was your motivator, but fitness is important for different reasons. So I'm just wondering whether the marketing message about what fitness does has got a little bit confused, and maybe if you're explaining it in a different way to how it's as you said, it's more of a lifestyle, or it's not there to get you in shape necessarily to give you a six pack. It's there for other reasons, which is why maybe you should incorporate it into your lifestyle. So I know it's quite a big question, but then there's quite a few things in there. But just interested generally in your thoughts about is it a communication issue? Can we expand the business opportunities for everybody, because we're all fighting for the same people at the moment, just by packaging it and changing what fitness should be for different people?
Well, what always used to shock me early on in my career was I would get a client, I'd train them, they become more fit, and then they would comment about the improvements in other aspects of their life. So rather than saying, oh, wow, I'm losing weight, I look better, they'd be like, I had a board meeting this morning and man, I felt sharp, or I have more energy to play with my kids, or I'm sleeping better. In marketing, there's a term our sales marketing team likes to say to us, we want to trade dimes for quarters, right? So you want to be able to spend 10 cents and get 25 cents back in marketing. Well, fitness is kind of like that. Like if you do it right, the 45 minutes that you spend on becoming more fit and healthy will get you back more time in both productivity, quality of life, in all aspects of your life. So you think about it this way. You're a good parent. How much better of a parent would you be if you were that much healthier? You're a good business person. How much better of a business person would you be if you were healthier and you had more energy and you were more fit? And it goes for everything. So I think that's a good message to communicate through fitness. Rather than come in and get fit and get ripped and look a particular way, come in and make the rest of your life better just by spending 45 minutes doing this thing that is going to improve the rest of your life. It really is a practice in improving the rest of your life. I used to communicate this to parents all the time. Sometimes I would get clients who were new parents and they'd tell me it's so hard to get away. Taking an hour away from my kids is almost impossible. But then when they would do it, they would tell me how much better they were at parenting and how much more energy they had and how much more patience they had because they were more fit. Think about how you experience life, right? All life is experienced through the filter of your body. It's like a lens that you see everything through. Well, if that lens is murky and muddy, then life is going to be experienced through that lens, and that's how you're going to view things. That's how you're going to perceive things. And that lens works both ways. It's also how the world is going to experience you. And I'm not just talking about the way you look. That's an obvious one, and that's an unfortunate one, but it's true. It's also the way you communicate through that lens of poor health. Think about the last time you were sick and you weren't feeling good. Were you happy? Did you have a short temper, or were you patient with the people around you? I've had to take care of people that were really ill, and they can be very difficult to be around. And I'm empathetic because I understand that the filter that they're receiving information and the filter.
Is real.
And say what?
The man cold is real.
The man cold is a real thing.
Real
Absolutely,
thing. Yeah.
That's absolutely true. So it improves everything, and so I think if people look at fitness and only value it for the aesthetic purpose, I'm just doing this to look good, that's not enough. It really isn't enough. It's not enough to justify the time and the pain and the change in lifestyle, the modification of lifestyle, the trading the hedonistic value of this food for the other values of this food, which is just aesthetic. Well, if I understand that the other values include all these other wonderful benefits, then I may want to make that choice, and I may want to make that choice long term. So I think that's an important one. And once I got to the point where I understood that and I was communicating that to clients, the buy-in that I got was much higher. I had much more success.
Well, it's the same way that we have success with teaching nutrition. Instead of teaching nutrition and if you eat like this and you're going to lose fat, or eat like this and you're going to build muscle, we speak to the other things like pay attention to your mental clarity, pay attention to your mood, look at your stool, look at your hair, look at your skin. Look at your attitude. Pay attention to all these other things that food affects on a daily basis, aside from just the scale or what you look like in the mirror. And as a byproduct, if you're consistently chasing those things to be better at all those other markers that we're talking about, as a byproduct, you're going to get fit. You're going to build muscle. You're going to lose some body fat. You're going to look good. But right now, for a very long time, we've only marketed to the way you look. We've always marketed to the insecurities.
That's right.
The things that we're most insecure about is how we market to people. Our marketing team hates us that we refuse to do the transformation photos. It's a proven model.
Yeah.
If we want to get people's attention and sell more programs and sell more shit, it is a proven model that we should use. And we've got hundreds, probably thousands now, for sure hundreds of incredible transformations from people that have gone through our program or been listening to our podcast for a long time, and we just don't use them.
Yeah.
And it's not because it's it's wrong or it's bad. It's just different than the message that we've been wanting to present. And it's always been that thing where it's like, man, if we absolutely had to do that, maybe we would. But if at all cost we can continue to present the message this way without using that as a tool to drive more sales, we're going to. And so that's what I think. I think there's a lot of opportunity to speak to these other things, because those other things are, like to Sal's point, that was the things that the clients that stayed long term and made it a lifestyle change made those connections. They realized that, oh wow, it's not just that I looked awesome and people were attracted to me, or I liked the way I looked, or I felt better about my insecurity during this time when I was buff. It was like, oh shit, I was a better father, I was a better partner. I actually got, and I know you can relate to this because you're a fitness person. Like, I don't know how many times I've even said this to myself, like, man, I'm so fucking busy right now to get to the gym. It's so tough. But then when you make it, you make sure you make it and you make it a part of your lifestyle, all of a sudden you get this more time in your day. You're still doing the same amount of shit, but you got more time in your day now that you've added an hour of working out. It's just you become more productive during that time. And those that make that connection and realize that, stop letting that be an excuse of why you don't get in there. So we're always trying to help people make that connection.
We're chasing the symptom and not the root. You know, the symptom of poor health is obesity, not looking good, you know, maybe not whatever. That's actually that's what we're chasing. Like, get away from the symptom, look at the root, try to become healthy, try to become a better person. Use fitness as one of those tools, and the side effect will be you'll look amazing, and you won't have to worry about it. It won't be something that you have to constantly fight for. It'll just happen.
Yeah, I think it's a great message, and it's one. I'm sure there are people out there that are saying, "Well, I've done this," but I think there's a lot of people that have not, and they're looking at other people to see what they're doing, and they're copying what they're doing, and this sort of vicious circle. And I guess for me, listening to what you're saying seems similar to many years ago when we started. You know, I came from the bodybuilding world, and you know, it's almost all about isolation, you know, single muscle machines. I was listening to what you guys were talking about recently in terms of working out, and you know, now everybody's all body, it's all functional, it's balance. And I just wonder whether that's just a period that people are going through in terms of, you know, an evolution to say, actually, look, you know, let's take it off the body. Although we're all body conscious and aware, you know, let's take it off the body. And because for me, the driver, I'm nearly 50, and my driver is very much about what you've said. You know, it's about just being sharper in meetings, being able to deal with a tough schedule, and flying around the world and having a family and a wife and that sort of thing. And that's more of a driver now than looking good, which is equally important. But it's just, you know, how do you get that message to more of a people, and how do you make it sort of sexy and appealing?
Well, the thing that I'm curious too, like you, that when what I wonder about, sometimes I ask myself, is this just the old me, old Adam, you know, who's approaching 40, who speaks like this, and would I get through to the 20-year-old me, you know? And so I too am curious, is this the changing of the tide? Are we becoming more educated? Are we learning more? Are we realizing how important it is? Or am I just speaking to a bunch of people at that part of their life, like you, like me, like all of us, who've just come to realize that, yeah, it's cool to be buff and look a certain way and all those other things, but fuck, at the end of the day, I care about my wife, my kids, my daily travel, all that. I just want to feel fucking good, right? And I kind of feel like almost everybody eventually comes there. Like, I think for the most part, I mean, I'm sure there's always outliers of people that go the rest of their life feeling insecure and chasing a look, you know, but for the most part, I think we all kind of wise up or get to that 40, 50 years old, and you're like, shit, I just want to feel good. You know what I'm saying?
That's why we dress like this. We're trying to still relate somehow, hold on to it. You know? Yeah,
well, I mean, you too, and myself included, we're a small percentage of the population even then. I was very consistent, even though I was motivated by how I looked. That's because my insecurities were strong enough to keep me going there. But there were a lot of people that never stayed consistent ever at all. At some point, people get sick of hating themselves, you know, going to the gym because they hate themselves. At some point, you have to make a decision. Do I do this because I care about myself, or do I stop because I don't like feeling like I hate myself all the time? Yeah. So I think that at the end of the day, the only long-term message that will succeed is the one that we're selling now. The one that we're talking about now. Now, the methods to get there, look, there's a lot of different ways to work out. There's a lot of different ways. I can tell you the ways that I think are the most effective and the best, but at the end of the day, the one that you do consistently is going to be the better one than the ones you do inconsistently. So at the end of the day, how you do it isn't quite as important. We're going to constantly communicate what we think to be the most effective and efficient ways, but at the end of the day, if you just do it, that's step one, most difficult step. And if you just do it and you love it, and you love it for the sake of it, and you love it because you love taking care of yourself, boy, that's 90% of the battle.
Yeah. So coming back sort of full circle to you guys then. So you ex-fitness trainers, you kind of went off and did your own thing and then came back together. And you mentioned your why. What was the why? Why did you guys originally start it? And is that the same reason for why you're doing it today?
I think there's a little bit of guilt I think that for me personally, like I think that when I look deep inside, like what was this like real motivator and the passion behind the message that we have, the why that Justin's talking about. And when I think about it is I was responsible for spreading a lot of the bullshit. You know, I was responsible for giving a bad message and for not helping a lot of clients. I sold a lot of training, you know. I made a lot of money off of people hiring me to motivate them. But I didn't change a lot of lives when I first started. Sure, I'd like to say that, you know, and I have a glass trophies that say I was the best trainer and says that I changed all these lives. But when I look back and I think how many people did I really fundamentally change for the rest of their life, that didn't come on until the in back half of my career. And so I think a lot of the motivation and passion, at least from me, and I don't know if these guys would agree or not, comes from this. You know, hey, I was partially responsible for you know, pushing this crappy message and not realizing, you know, and so I think that's what gets me up every morning and keeps going is that like if I was fooled and I'm in the industry and I'm part of it, like, you know, now I feel responsible to help change it for the better. And so I think that's a lot of the motivator for me.
I think, yeah, partially guilt. The other part of it is that like we've made our own personal mistakes along the journey of trying to get fit ourselves. And that's a big thing that I think isn't communicated by all of your Insta famous sort of celebrity types out there that look awesome already. Like all they want to highlight is how awesome they are all the time. And it's just not real. It's not real. They were never always that awesome. And so it's like, well, let's just, let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of the mistakes we've made, like some of the ideas we had that are just stupid now. And there's plenty of those examples that we've brought up, especially in the beginning of the show, because each one of us has our own particular experience with fitness. And for me, it was very much more performance driven. And I was always in there to try and get better numbers, to be able to perform better on the field in my athletic pursuits. And, you know, and so Adam and Sal both have different experiences, you know, whether it was with sports or with just trying to improve the aesthetic of their body or, you know, bodybuilding pursuits. So there's just a lot of content there. There's a lot of things where people I know out there can relate more to that because it's like real struggles. It's real things where, I'm drinking like in excess of protein because I think like just by doing that, like muscles are going to magically appear. And these are just common things that people still think today that we just have removed ourselves with because we're in a bubble.
Yeah, I would say all of us, I could just because I know these guys now very well, we all started out really wanting to help people. We just kind of did it the wrong way early on because that's what we learned. We still want to help people. We still want to help as much people as possible. We just have a lot more experience now. I think the message now is right. We can communicate what actually works, what doesn't work, and communicate the right way. And this is a great medium to do so. You know, we reach millions of people every month, which gives us a better opportunity at really making an impact than before when I was limited by how many clients I could train in a day. We speak to a lot of trainers. We have a lot of trainers that listen to our show. They're the ones that are actually touching and working with people. And hopefully through, you know, getting them to train differently and to do things that are actually effective and communicate ways that are effective, that we can change through proxy even more lives. So that's still the motivation. I just think now we're saying the right stuff. I think early on it was wrong early on, but now you're 20 years later, you learn a few things.
But and that's one of the questions I had for you. It's quite difficult, particularly in this industry, even if you're in the know. You know, you guys have lived this for many years. How in terms of now the ability to influence a lot of people. There's a lot of young people coming in industry that are going to be listening to what you're saying and they're going to be applying it. How do you look at two sets of information that are totally contradictory, that seem to have supporting arguments on both sides? How do you make that decision between what you think is right and wrong and to be able to advise other people about what to follow?
Well, at the end of the day, and I know what you're referring to, like nutrition information, training information. This study says 8 to 12 reps is more effective. This one says 15 to 20. This study says low carb is better. This study says low fat is better. At the end of the day, you're dealing with individuals. And the variance between individuals is dramatic. This is the biggest lesson I learned as a trainer working with clients. I had clients who did exceptionally well eating a diet that was completely different from other clients who ate in a way that was exceptionally well for them. And had they switched diets, it would have been absolute disaster. I had clients that responded very, very well to certain types of training and other clients that responded very, very well to other types of training. At the end of the day, regardless of what a study says, use that as a bit of a guide, but your client is the one that's going to dictate the direction of the training. Look, because I made this mistake early on where I would be just hard-headed. Client would tell me, no, this is not working for me. And I'm like, nope, that's not what the research says. We're going to push, we're going to push, we're going to push. And it didn't work. It did not work. So at the end of the day, you have to look at the individual you're working with. They're all a fingerprint. They're all very, very unique. And it's not just their body that's unique, although that is also extremely unique. I mean, when we're talking about their physiology and their microbiome and all that, but also their experiences, what motivates them, the reason why they're there to work out, why they like to work out with you, why they don't like to exercise at other times, things that they enjoy, things that get them to want to exercise, things that tend to, there's clients that you work with who really like it when you can be hard and real with them. And there's other clients that'll walk out the door and never come back, and they'll never want to work out again. You have to meet the individual where they're at, and you have to train them according to themselves. That's the biggest lesson. And if you do that, then you can take these contradicting studies and you can apply them to people and then see what works best.
Well, we rubbed a lot of academia the wrong way when we first started because there seems to be, again, like we talked about earlier, about these camps. And there's these camps when it comes to science and studies too, where it's like, to Sal's point about, repetitions, like, oh, this is the best repetitions to burn body fat, or this is the best for building muscle, or this type of programming is best for this. And the one that they all seem to leave out, and we find it ironic because over our decades of experience, it's the most important, and that's the psychological piece. There's so much to be said about the individual, like Sal was talking about, and the behaviors that they have, and everything that works also doesn't work, and things that don't work for some. So, and once you've done that enough times, hundreds of times with people, you look at studies and science completely different. And I think that we bring that to the show as we try, because every day Sal brings some science article. We have a private forum with thousands of people that are constantly throwing us, new study, and they want to hear what we have to say about it. And we always give people this perspective of, listen, this is great information. This is new. We've heard this. This might work for these people. These are things to take into consideration. We try and get them to understand that there's more than meets the eye, and that in all these studies, it's an average, it's general, it's a controlled group, and there's always exceptions to the rule. And so always to take this information with a grain of salt.
And context matters.
Yes.
Matters huge. Like studies will show consistently, this is a very simple one, when they compare rep ranges, the rep range that builds the most muscle is the 8 to 12 rep range. They call that the hypertrophy rep range. Most studies will show that builds the most muscle. But it really depends, doesn't it? If I have a person who's been training 8 to 12 reps for a year, guess which rep range is not going to build the most muscle on them? The 8 to 12 rep range. The other rep ranges are going to build more muscle. The other thing to consider is all the rep ranges build muscle. Here's another example. If I have a study that says that this workout over here burns significantly more body fat and builds more muscle than this workout over here, and I have a client who loves the less effective workout and won't do the more effective workout, then guess what? They're going to do the less effective workout because that's the one that's actually going to be more effective for them because they're going to do it. So at the end of the day, context matters. It's everything. It's absolutely everything. And the individual is absolutely everything. And that's your job as a trainer. Your job as a trainer is to figure out what's best, but also what's best for them and what they're going to do and how you're going to get them to do what's going to be best for them. And that's pretty much it.
I don't trust most health coaches that don't start their sentence with "it depends." It depends is like, I mean, that should just be like a staple statement for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good comment. So final two questions before I wrap up then. So first one is you guys have got a lot going on. It would be great if you could just explain about your forums, your books, your programs, just for people who are interested in, that don't know you already and interested in going a bit deeper. Can you just give us a bit of an overview of what you guys are up to at the moment?
Well, one of the things that I always like to lead with on any time we're on a show is to take advantage of all the free content. That's why we did what we did. It's impossible to actually absorb all the free stuff that we have. Listen to the podcast. We have a free app, Mind Pump Media, that you can get on the App Store on iTunes, and allows you to search the podcast by topic. So you can put in any sort of topic you want to hear us talk about, or an interview to an expert in, and pop up will the episode where we discuss this. That's also on the website. We have a YouTube channel, Mind Pump TV. That we have well over 500 YouTube videos on there with exercise tutorials and information that we've done. Take advantage of that. On our website, mindpumpmedia.com, as soon as you get on there, there's 30 days of free coaching. We spent a ton of time on putting together a lot of the information. We've curated all the information that we provide on the podcast with what we think is 30 of the most important topics to discuss with anybody getting started in fitness. So everything from gut health to building muscle to losing body fat to programming to breaking down the macronutrients. And it's dripped to you one email a day where you get a nice little video from Sal who speaks to you for 3 to 5 minutes. And then it's got studies to back up any of the information that we talk about and bullet points on the topic. So, I highly recommend that you go and you take advantage of all of our free content. First, we have blogs. We have 3 to 5 blogs that go out every single week. You can subscribe to that so you get the blog directly emailed to you with lots of great information. We have mindpumpfree.com, which is all of our free guides, like on specific topics. You want to build your shoulders, you want to lose body fat, or you work on your abs, or build your legs or your calves. We've got, these are 5,000 word documents that we spent a lot of time putting energy into that to give you free information there. So I highly recommend that before you buy anything from us, go take advantage of all the free information that we got. And then, you know what, if you want more after that, we have a ton of MAPS fitness programs that you can look into, and that's on our website also at mindpumpmedia.com, and you can surf around and check out all that. But again, take advantage of all the free stuff first, and let us help you out that way before you even invest anything on us.
Right.
Yeah, great, excellent. And final question then. So this is a collective question really in terms of your business ventures. Escape Your Limits is about escaping what you guys or individually you've believed is probably impossible, or other people have said, you can't do that, that's not possible. What do you think is an example of something you've done together where you've sort of escaped your own personal limits?
Ooh, that's our own personal limits.
That's a good question.
I think just this show is an example for me, because I'm not like the greatest communicator in the world. This was a big stretch for me and challenge for me personally. And if you were to ask anybody in my family or anybody growing up, like, this is what I'm doing for a career, like, it's absurd. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So in terms of like that being a limitation for me, massive limitation for me, seriously, like terrifying for me personally, but has been nothing but pure growth, and has been such a process for me to really expand new heights as an individual, and to really benefit me in all different types of pursuits.
Yeah, I'm going to counter you though, Justin, because I think as difficult as it's been, it's not a surprise that you tackled it. That's the part that's not a surprise. And there's a crazy thing about working with these guys. The business started with Adam, Justin, Doug, and myself. And if you heard us talking day 4, you would have thought we'd already succeeded and crushed and did everything. I mean, there isn't a single thing that's happened that has shocked or surprised us. We're very humble about it, and we're very grateful. There's been lots of gratitude. But I don't think there's ever been a thing that we've done where we're like, oh my God, I can't believe that we were able to. We've done a lot of very challenging things. Things have definitely been difficult at times and very challenging, and have challenged us all, personally and professionally. But it's funny. It's like this. It's like an amplifier working with these guys. I tend to be like that personally, But then working with them, it's like times a million. And so when something comes up and we want to do something, even as crazy as it sounds, and we have no experience doing it, there's like when we started the podcast, none of us had any experience with this whatsoever. We didn't stop. It didn't make us pause. We just like, this is what we're going to do. Same thing with the YouTube channel. This is what we're going to do. We're going to put out these guides. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to create a program, put myself on video. Never did it before. No problem. Let's do it. It's scary, definitely. But I don't think there are any limits we haven't put any limits on ourselves. I'm sure the limits exist, of course, but we haven't put limits out there. And again, if we were just laughing about this the other day, where early on when we first started this, we were talking like we had millions of fans already and what we're doing, but that's just the belief that we have. And so, that's why I want to counter what Justin was saying. As challenging as it has been for him, knowing Justin and the kind of person he is, absolutely no shock at all that he would have.
There was no hesitation.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'll share something that comes to mind when I think escape your limits for me personally, and that was I've been an entrepreneur as a kid. I mean, I started my first business. I was 14 years old, and ever since then, I've always had at least one or two businesses that I've been doing or been building, and I had always kind of reached this limit. I couldn't break into the millions of dollars, and I'd scaled businesses up. I'd been very successful as an entrepreneur. Always been able to provide for myself, my family, and live a nice life. But I've always had this desire to be this big businessman and build this massive business, and that's been a major limit for me. I've never been able to break into the multi-million-dollar range and build a massive company. And for the first time ever in my life, we're here. We've arrived in that place. We are a big company now. A lot of people don't realize, I think, how big the company is and how many people are involved in it. And I don't think that would have been I know it wouldn't have been possible had I not met these three other men in the room. Like to Sal's point, it's been a fast track of growth on many, many levels, and especially in business. The three or the four of us together have this incredible ability to lead this company, but always allow different guys to switch who's kind of taking the lead in different areas of the business. And that was a major limiting factor for me. I was not able, and I try and give this to advice to the people that are trying to scale a business now. Like you reach a point where it's of volume individually by yourself. You can only make so much money by yourself. Now there's always exceptions to the rule of somebody that got famous selling a pet rock or some shit, but for the most part, right?
Date yourself a little bit.
I bought that. Yeah.
So there's examples.
Smiley face T-shirt.
There's examples of this in history where one individual has become a multimillionaire by themselves. But that's very, very rare. And if you want to scale something to that magnitude, it requires other brilliant minds to be involved in the process. And I feel blessed and lucky that I have found these guys to have partnered up with. And back to Sal's point again, that I do think it's limitless. It really is limitless with these guys, because we all have that mindset that we can do anything. And it's been awesome. But that was something that I felt limited for a very long part of my life. I had kind of kept hitting the ceiling of volume in a business, and I hadn't been able to scale beyond that. And we just have kind of blown through that, and there doesn't seem like there's going to slow down anytime soon.
Excellent. Well, guys, it's been a fantastic conversation. I think we could have gone on for a long time, but I know we can't. So I appreciate your time. Thank you for inviting me here, and best of luck for the future.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you. Thanks for having us on.